Greetings, brothers and sisters. I got a lot of stuff with Joey B, JoJo Magoo to get to. So many people sent me this. This is the version I think is the best in terms of clarity of picture. JoJo gets a little bit mad at his CNN reporter.
Why are you so confident he'll change his behavior, Mr. President?
Yeah, I'm not confident changing behavior. What the hell? What do you do all the time? So when did I say I was confident?
You said in the next 6 months you'll be able to determine.
What I said was,
He's got his finger out. Now, we've seen this with Joe before. We've seen this with Magoo before. And this would be a symptom of dementia, where he gets very aggressive, challenging people to push-up contests, get in people's face. And, he does this quite a bit. And he's criticizing the press for being too hard on him. That's the beauty of this thing. Because the guy has been lobbed softball questions, and CNN more than anybody else has covered up for him time and time again and talking about how great he is. And he's losing it here.
Behavior, Mr. President.
yeah, I'm not confident changing behavior. What the hell? What do you do all the time?
What does CNN do all the time? Well, I can field that question for you, Mr. President Magoo. What they do is they spend 90% of their time crapping all over Trump and trying to blame Trump for everything, and 10% of the time lying about what a great guy and what a great job you're doing. That's how they spend their time.
When did I say I was confident?
You said in the next 6 months you'll be able to determine.
What I said was, let's get it straight. I said what will change their behavior is if the rest of the world reacts to them and it diminishes their standing in the world. I'm not confident of anything. I'm just stating the fact.
But given his past behavior has not changed, and in that press conference after sitting down with you for several hours, he denied any involvement in cyber attacks. He downplayed human rights abuses. He even refused to say Alexei Navalny's name. So how does that account to a constructive meeting as President Putin?
You don't understand.
I think that is Caitlin Collins. It sounds like her. And she sucks, and she just, she hated Trump, and it was complete unfair coverage. And she is asking him, I don't know, a stupid question because the meeting hasn't happened yet, and they have to have a meeting. It's just ridiculous that they would care about this. But the guy has been protected by CNN and MSNBC and most of the major news networks because he's incompetent. Mentally is broken down, and you can see it. I got a lot more stuff to cover today. The EU meeting, which is bizarre, and then his press conference about Putin after the fact. But this is where he just is losing it because he gets the slightest bit of pushback from the media. Imagine when they go after him full time. Anyways, I made a voiceover yesterday, and I didn't get to turn it into a video, so I thought I'd merge it with this one just for, no particular reason. But I got a bunch of long JoJo stuff to get to later because it's documentation of everything that we said, that he couldn't handle being president. And this is the first good example because he can't be hidden away by the mainstream media. He's in foreign countries, and he has to work full time. They can't roll him out for an hour when he has some, when he's lurid, he has some clarity of thought, right? But anyways, here's the voiceover from yesterday. It's got some what I consider interesting points. Greetings, brothers and sisters. So I want to talk about a couple of things that came to me, sort of revelations that I haven't talked about before. I was going to put them in another video, but I just thought I'd emphasize them separately and then, bring them back up later. So the first piece to this is that most people can't change their point of view. They can't change their belief system. They can't change what party, Democrat or Republican party they believe in, based in, well, for example, let's start off with people in the news. Let's say you worked at CNN, and one day you woke up and you were open to truther narratives. All of a sudden you were open to, believing in some of the things we believe in the truth community, and you started questioning the official story. And you wanted to bring that into some of your news pieces. You wanted to cover the news in a different way, and you would be told, no, you can't do that. And, more than likely you would be fired, especially if you pursued it. Because if you had a change of heart and you became a truther, or let's say you became a Trump supporter, or even at Fox News, you were open to Democratic or liberal ideas at Fox News, and you brought that to the table, you would be fired. So that's just like news media. Like news media can't change. If you change something, you have to hide it and you have to pretend it. And so lots of people, in terms of their social circles, in terms of the people in their lives, can't change their belief system. Either they'll be fired, or they won't have any friends. They'll be, ostracized in their community. I mean, most people, whether they're Republican or Democrat, or whether they go to church or not, they're, Christian or atheist, or, any number of things, that changing your belief system will mean the end of something in your life, in terms of your social life, your family, your job, whatever it might be. And all these politicians are the same way. Politicians have to believe what their supporters believe. If they have a change of heart and they say, oh, I don't believe this anymore, and they try to convince their supporters will turn on them 100% of the time. I mean, this is, think about what happened in, Christian tradition to Jesus and the disciples and all these people. And so if you go along with what you're supposed to go along with, the status quo, whatever that means for you personally, then things are going smoothly. But as soon as you have a change of heart, then all of a sudden everyone's like, oh my God, well, why are you doing this? Why are you bucking the system? Why are you bucking, what everyone else does? And you become like the scapegoat, and you become the, if you were a conservative and you became a liberal, then your social system is, who hates liberals, then all the anger and things that they feel towards liberals, probably they don't really know any liberals, just like with liberals and conservatives. If you're a liberal and you become a conservative, then your social circle will vent all their hostility and hatred towards you. And so many of you have experienced this. I was thinking about this morning. I got a few comments, one comment specifically saying they try to share these videos, my videos, with their friends, and, nobody can even open up to them. And then all these other people left comments about it. And I was already thinking about that, so it's interesting. But you've experienced this when you had some sort of an awakening. Almost everybody listening to this has had loss of friends or family members, or the relationships aren't as good, because when you change, your social system isn't going to change with you. The people in your social circle. And if you have sort of a severe change where you doubt the official story, I mean, it's one thing to go from being a Democrat to a Republican, or a Democrat to a independent, or go from being like, a Baptist to a Methodist or something like this, right? But it's different to go and become a complete, truther, where you're saying you don't trust the official story at all. Like, that's such a huge leap. And many who have made that leap have suffered socially. And so you see this all the time. People who have, real change in their life suffer to one degree or another, in terms of their social circle, in terms of, their ability to be employed. I mean, so many different things. If there's a mass awakening, that's something, and at least there's a support system, at least for now, on social media for so-called truthers. And yet, even within that social system, people will, like, there was a guy, I watched a video, somebody sent me it, and he was a QB, and he was like really into it. And, he was a Christian as well, a young guy. And he was, he met with these other guys, and they were friends, and they had personal relationships. And then after Q was wrong time and time again, and he just saw the writing on the wall, he called his friend up and said, I, don't believe in Q anymore. And the guy turned on him on social media, unfriended him, ostracized him, and told all his followers to turn on the guy, right? And they had, worked in they were friends, first of all, and they had worked together on joint tasks. But as soon as, there's a desperation in like the Q movement where people, know it's BS on some level. So they get hyper vigilant. When some people, when they join a cult, or they believe something that, deep down they know is fake, or they get into a relationship and they know the person's a piece of crap, but they're deluding themselves because they're lonely and they're just, you know, in some sort of form of infatuation where they don't want to acknowledge what's right in front of them. They get hyper vigilant. If you say anything about the movement or the person they're in a relationship with, they turn on you and they go like full, you know, they go full nuclear, right? And so, so this is the first piece, that when you change in your life, when anybody changes, there's a price to pay. And some people are in a situation where they can't change. Like they would have to quit their jobs. I mean, you can change, but they're just giving up too much. Like these reporters and people who have made it in the establishment, Hollywood persona, Hollywood personalities. You notice how there's almost like no real Republican or truth or Hollywood personalities, because those people have a bigger circle, and as soon as they come out, especially as being a truther, then they're going to be shut down and they're going to be, disappeared. Years ago when I first started Heartfulness, one of the trainers said she had a guy that came to her, and he was, a devout Christian, and he was interested in meditating, and he found Heartfulness, and he immediately was like into it. Like he just felt the transmission and it was working for him. And he was like, talking about how much he loved it. And then like his family were all, I mean, not just his wife and his, that family, but his big extended family were all very devout Christians, and they would never accept him meditating. And he came and he said, this is the real thing. And I know it's, better for me, but I just can't do it. Like I'll be ostracized by my family. And so this is, the problem, especially when it comes to your personal growth and being able to go to the next level. When you go to the next level and the people in your life aren't going to go there with you, then you're going to be lonely, until you start making a new social circle of people in the next level. And so that's just the way it's going to be. So that's the first piece. The other thing that I wanted to say is, I realized this yesterday, that my wife was cutting my hair, and I got all these, hair clippers out, and I, always shave my beard down at the same time, especially in the summer. And so I was shaving my beard, and I had all these clippers out, and usually I charge them when whenever I get a haircut. And so I was like, I'm not going to do it today. I just, I'm kind of tired, and I was getting lazy about it. And I realized I was screwing my future self over, right? Like I was going to go to, get my hair cut like, another couple weeks or month or whatever. I was going to pull out these, these razors and things, and I was going to have to charge them ahead of time or whatever. I was going to have to remember that. And I was thinking about how many times, like, I make it harder for my future self. Like I put something off, like, like for my Tuesday self, like Monday, I'm like, all right, I'm going to do that on Monday. Something to do with clerical work and stuff that I hate doing. I'm like, I'm going to do that Monday. And then I'm like screwing myself on Tuesday, right? I'm screwing Tuesday Paul, right? Monday Paul is screwing Tuesday Paul, right? And then I was like, well, maybe I'll do it next week. Then, that week Paul is screwing next week's Paul, right? Because I'm procrastinating and doing something. So whenever you like cut corners or you do something in a haphazard manner and you're like, oh, I'll take care of it down the road, or, you kick the can down the road, you're screwing your future self. People talk about how much, everyone thinks about the people they dislike, but I think more often than not, people are screwing themselves over, in the future. They're screwing their future self over by making haphazard decisions and, getting involved in things. I mean, think about drug use and all the things people do when you're, a young person and you're partying and, destroying your liver, you start to smoke and whatever, and you feel fine because you're young, but you're going to, you're giving your older self lung cancer, right? You're eating processed foods and, giving your older self diabetes, and, decisions you're making right now are totally screwing yourself over in later life. Like you're not being very kind to your future version of yourself. I mean, think about how many times you look back at things you did in your past. And you're like, oh wow, that really screwed me over. That really, that was a bad, that was a bad move. I mean, I had this experience. I had these past life memories, and they were like sort of, famous people. in the past in India, and I developed a bitterness towards God from those lives. And there was one life in particular that had a very long life as a really bad king. And I'm pretty sure about this, like, as sure as I could be, that I was these two people. And this one life, I was like, man, that guy really fucked me over, man. Like, when I realized some of the things and problems that I was having in this life were due to, a bad life, right? Bad decisions that, a personality and ego made, that my soul was going to have to, pay in some future existence. I mean, a lot of people, have that. They don't even know it, that they've made, bad decisions, horrible decisions in past lives, or just, whatever it is, alcoholism and extended behaviors, and creating some scars, impressions that you take with you in your, after you die, and have to, I mean, you didn't pass the test. Your soul had tasks to complete. You had things that you had to do as a soul, and oftentimes it's paying for things that you've done in the past, right? And now you've dug a bigger hole for yourself. And so you're just screwing over some future version of yourself. And like, you can see it even in this life. Like I just gave examples. You're doing things right now, eating foods and behaving in such a way. I mean, almost everybody does it to some extent, that your future self is going to have to pay a price for it. I mean, it's something to think about. Like, when you're doing things that are wrong or bad behaviors, that ultimately, it affects other people. Yeah, sure. But what about yourself? Like, what are you doing to some future version of yourself, right? This is, so these are two elements. When you think about the tragedy of the human experience right now, that our social systems and our, our work life and, political views, all these things, that there's a lot of pressure for you or every person to not change and just accept all the things that they're given by the people around them and the government and everybody else. Not to rise to a higher level of consciousness and question and even find solutions and other narratives that have a better explanation of what's going on. That the system itself, there's this peer pressure element, keeps you from changing your beliefs and who you are as a person. And the other thing is that people are constantly screwing future versions of themselves over. I mean, just think about that, right? Versions, not virgins. I don't know, like I've been... But anyways, this is Paul Romano, definitely reporting from the Apocalypse and the Ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.